Hello and welcome to the Super 6 podcast. Do not adjust your settings. You are in the right place. This is, I'm afraid, Laura Woods is not here. But the good news is, Bayo Akinfenwa is here with me, David Jones, host of Monday Night Football. Bayo, why are you looking so confused? You're looking like someone's stolen your dinner. What's going on?
I'm just thinking, wait, this ain't Monday night. I'm used to watching you on the big screen. Like, what's going on? Hey, listen. LW's gone big time anyway. So, listen, I hear she maybe not here for the week. Yeah,
she's gone big time.
Just like Man City's squad, the Liverpool squad, when you flip in, you come in with equal pedigree, and man's got DJ with me today. What's going on, DJ?
You're used to sitting opposite an oil painting, and now you're sitting opposite a painting of oil. You know, that's how you must be feeling right now.
DJ.
You've ordered a plate of caviar and you've got a Yorkshire pudding. But, you know, we'll make the most of it, Bayo.
DJ, come on now, B. Bob, you're caliber, you're top flight. Listen, LW, she's cool, but you top flight. Make sure she don't hear me say this, but you top flight now. I feel like I'm moving up in the world.
Well, I feel the same. You know, I've listened to this. I've long been a fan and an admirer, Bayo. I love your energy and your enthusiasm. I've loved watching you play football. I have to say, I've not really enjoyed watching you play against my team a couple of times because you're a destroyer. You're an evil destroyer when you're on that field, Bayo.
I'm nice. You know, I get this, the perception that I'm a beast and I'm a nice guy. Come on now. Unless you're a centre-back, I'm a nice guy.
So listen, tell me what's been going on. What happened to Wickham? I mean, you've had a bit of a roller coaster week.
Yeah. Played last night. The team played. I'm injured. Hopefully I'm back weekend. If not, next week. Reoccurrence of the knee. But yeah, listen. Played brilliant against Huddersfield, come back from 2-0 down, won 3-2. Then we had Rooney's derby at Adams Park last night. And listen, I know for the second half, we totally battered them. Like, got it back to 1-1. And just the story of our championship, in the sense they had one chance and then just scored last minute of the game. And I think, like, that's what we're learning with the championship, is that, of course, it's small details and it's just the small margins. And we're learning on the job. But listen, the Wickham way, we'll keep fighting, 17 games to go. And listen, look, I'll always say, if you're going to go down, not even say going to go down, like, to always go to every game swinging. And that's what Wickham's going to do. So it's tough. I ain't going to lie, it's tough, but games come thick and fast and we go again.
Absolutely. It's all you can do, isn't it? I just had this image of you last night because I knew you weren't playing, you were injured, of you sort of being on the touchline, noising up Wayne Rooney. Did you get the chance to do that?
To be fair, like, I didn't, because I had my shoes on. Like, we had to go on. I didn't want to get my shoes messy, so I sat in the stands and that. And I was watching him, though, and he don't say a word, Like, I was watching, like, the contrast of both managers. Like, Gareth Ainsworth, he headers, he kicks, he shouts, He's like... And I was watching Rooney, and Rooney is just methodical. But he didn't yell one time, walked up and down, and I'm looking at him, and of course, it's Rooney, innit? As a striker, you're looking at him thinking, right, that's big dog Rooney and that. And it wouldn't have been right of me. I couldn't have, like, grabbed up Rooney. That's Rooney, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I figured I'd stay in the stand and that and be cool.
That's interesting you say that, about the different technique of managers, because you do see some that are very methodical, as you say. They like to think they do a bit like I suppose the rugby approach. They do all their work in the week, all their preparation in the week, and they on match day you have to embolden your players to take responsibility on the pitch. But of course, every coach has their own philosophy. Every coach has the different energy that they want to bring to it.
Yeah. I mean, it is. I mean, for me, as you said, I'm about energy, and I love the way I want my manager to be kicking and screaming. I actually do. Like when I see Klopp on the touchline, like Gareth Ainsworth, I like that. Because that's it. I'm very passionate. I'm very loud. So I like that. I like to emulate my manager, sort of thing. I mean, there's nothing wrong. Each their own. I've had all different types of managers who are, like you said, very methodical in their approach. But for me, I gravitate to that passionate, loud, want to header, want to kick every ball sort of thing. So, but yeah, man, different strokes for different folks.
Absolutely. Well, listen, Bayo, I know you're a big Liverpool fan. So I've got a little treat for you today on the podcast because this being a Monday Night Football takeover, it wouldn't be complete without my other half of Monday Night Football. The one, the only, Jamie Carragher is joining us on the podcast. So we are setting it up. It is. I'm bringing it for you because I know you're a big fan. This is Bootle and the Beast in front of you today.
Oh, hey, DJ, I told you I'm moving up in the world. And now I'm rolling with upper echelon individuals. And you bring in JC, who's my guy. So I got DJ and JC. I am looking forward to this. I'm going to jump in with him because he doesn't hold his tongue. So I like this.
Absolutely. So I'm hoping that you're just going to take the lead and I can sit back and enjoy it. Let's get it on. So, Bayo, we've got a real treat today. We are joined by a man who rarely gives interviews. You rarely hear him speak in public. This is not like someone who's got his own podcast, TV show, on everything, written a book. It's not like, oh no, sorry, that's my old script.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got the wrong script there. Delighted to welcome Jamie Carragher, Bayo. This is the proper Monday Night Football takeover.
I know. Listen,
this is no fake. This is the real me now. You forget the books, forget the podcast. You're going to get the real me, the real.
Yes. Listen, let me say something, innit? So the last couple of weeks, innit, we've had like strikers who I've looked up to, innit, like that's gone through like the ranks. And listen, there's no hiding it. Like I'm a Liverpool supporter, innit? I'm a Liverpool fan. And like, see, I'm going to call you DJ and I'm going to call you JC, innit? So now I've got, for me, growing up, a Liverpool legend. So I'm kind of gassed. So welcome, JC. How you doing, broski? See what I did there?
I'm on absolute fire. I can't believe I'm on a podcast with Bayo and I'm getting interviewed by the main man. So what am I calling you then? Is it just Bayo? So we're JC and DJ. You're
you can call me.
Bayo's.
Yeah, you call me Bayo, man. You call me Beast Mod. Either way, man. Call me Bayo. Whatever you want to call me, JC, I'm cool with. You get me?
I like the Beast Mod.
All right, cool. I'm going to run with this. All right, Jamie Carragher, see?
Yeah.
JC, listen, yeah? So I did some research, yeah? I went down this professional role. I did some research about you. And listen, no, be easy, El Squeezy. All right, so listen, I knew you was an Everton supporter, but I didn't know that you was a Everton supporter. So you still an Everton supporter now?
No, not now. I was when I was a kid. I was a big fan. Yeah, it's nothing. You haven't got an exclusive with that one. Don't worry. It's well known. I went to the games home and away. Everton were really successful in the mid '80s. Yeah, so I was a big Everton fan before I obviously started full time at Liverpool and was getting in the reserves in the first team.
So okay, so now I'm not saying it was exclusive. I knew the worst thing is I knew that. When you started off at Everton, right? And then you went to Liverpool, went through the ranks. And no, I heard that story. Don't get it twisted. I know that about it. But what I thought I found out, don't worry, I'm going to talk to my researchers about it because I thought that you were still an Everton supporter. That's what I thought. Now, I apologise. I take that back. I'll take it back. I apologise. All right, so go on. I apologise. That's the researchers. I'm sorry. I take that back. All right, so how was that like? So,
what a start, Bayo.
I know. So how was it like? Talk to me. How was that like, supporting Everton as a kid and then going across to their main rivals? How was that? Was there any conflict as a kid? Or was that just easy for you to make the transition?
No, it was fine. For me, as I said, I was a mad Evertonian. I went to Liverpool, and let's not forget, Liverpool were the best team in the country at that time. They were rivaling Everton, but everyone knew Liverpool was sort of top dogs at that stage. And for me, Dad, who was a big Evertonian as well. Basically, when your son's involved and your kid's involved, you want him to go to the best place for him, and the best place for me to learn and practice football was Liverpool. They were the best. They played a different style of football, possibly to anyone else in the first division at that time. And also, they were the first club to ask me, so that always helps. So there wasn't a real decision. I was never going to turn that down. So, no, I can still picture it now in the dressing room when the school teacher came in, or the school's manager for Bootle Boys, and he said 4 of us were going down to train with Liverpool. Myself, John Stannard, Paul Joyce, and Stephen Gould. So the 4 of us got picked out, and I think we were all 9 or 10. They were a year older than me. I was a year below, so I would have only been 8 or 9. And it went from there. And obviously, John Stannard, actually, he went and played for Liverpool reserves. Paul Joyce got released, I think, around about schoolboy forms, and I think Stephen Gould lasted 12, 18 months, really. So we all had sort of different pathways, the four of us, from, we got chosen that day.
So, all right, when you broke through to Liverpool...
Bayo, did you know this? Did you know that Jamie was actually a striker?
No, I didn't. JC talked... Oh, I love this. I knew I'd find out stuff about this. You started off as a striker?
Yes, and I was a very good one, by the way. I still hold the record for Little Boys goal scoring. Would you believe, Bayo, my first game for Liverpool reserves, so not kids football, Liverpool reserves as a centre forward.
No.
My first game for Liverpool, I played for England until under 16 level as a centre forward. I went to the national school, so yeah, I was a quality centre forward in my younger days, but ended up going further back because I wouldn't say I lost. I was never the quickest. I was quite quick as a young kid, but I'd have never been good enough to be a professional centre forward, maybe lower leagues or something like that. But I mean, that's not too difficult down there, is it, being a striker?
You know the worst thing is, what the hell would you mean? What do you mean? Don't think I didn't clock that, man said, yeah, lower league striker. Don't think I didn't clock that.
I thought this was a banter podcast.
You watch when I see you. Don't think we ain't working together soon, You can talk this talk over the camera. We're going to work together soon, I'm just letting you know.
I'm telling you. I've talked to David, there's the numbers. Bayo's coming in. He's hosting M&S.
All right, so talk to me, JC. Talk to me. What was the changing room like when you first broke through to Liverpool? What was the changing room like? Who were the players there? What was you seem like a confident person. You seem like no nonsense, and you've always seemed that way. So when you broke through there, was there an element of nerves? What was the changing room like? Who was there?
The two legendary figures were John Barnes and Ian Rush, and the rest of the squad was possibly a little bit younger. They were part of the really successful teams of the 80s, and they were still there in the mid-90s, and most of that squad had gone and moved on and been replaced by Jamie Redknapp, Jason McAteer, Robbie Fowler, McManaman, Collymore, some great names and some great players. But they were the two standout legends where, if you were in their presence, you basically really behaved yourself, and there was no way winding them up or giving them a quick fire answer. They were so well thought of by everybody at the club. They were they were gods, really, for what they'd done for Liverpool. Two of the greatest players in the history of the club. So they were the captain and vice captain in the squad when I first got into it. So I actually played in the reserves with Ian Rush. I didn't play in the first team with Rushy. He just moved on as I was getting involved with the first team, but we played reserves together a couple of times, and I played a couple of games with John Barnes in midfield together in my first season, because it was his last season then. And as I said, privilege for me to say I've played with two of the greatest players in Liverpool's history.
John Barnes was, as a youngster, and everybody asks the question, I'm a Londoner, born and raised in London, why am I such a passionate Liverpool supporter? And it was because of John Barnes. I mean, it's crazy. I've said this many times. I played nothing like him. As much as I idolised him, I played nothing like him. But John Barnes was the reason why I supported Liverpool. So to know that he was in the changing room. So was he, going in there, JC, was John Barnes, and like you said, I think you touched on it, Ian Rush, were they intimidating to you? Were they rah? They come into a room and y'all got to stop giggling. Were they the most two intimidating figures?
I wouldn't say they were intimidating. They weren't that type. I mean, Ian Rush was a lot quieter than John Barnes. John Barnes was like the life and soul of a party type of thing. He's a great fella, John Barnes, and I love still speaking to him now. He's always, he's funny, he's energetic, he's got personality. So no, I got on really well with John Barnes, as everyone did. I don't think anyone really, you couldn't not like John Barnes and the respect you had for him as a player, but not just a player for what he'd done in the past on the left wing. How good he was still playing central midfield for Liverpool. He was still almost the best player in training every day, really. He was just... I think him and Jan Molby, I would say, are two of the best players I've ever trained with. And Jan was more in the reserves as well, as he was falling out of the first team. Whereas you'd have great players, and I include Stevie in that. Stevie's obviously the best player I've ever played with. But in terms of people who are a little bit different, they're not normal, I would class Barnes and Molby like that, where they could do things with the ball that you didn't think were possible, really. And real special players, and just shows how good those teams were in the 80s.
See, man, I
Who did you learn your good habits from, Cara? Around the training ground, that sort of professionalism that and that leadership that you carried through the rest of your career?
To be honest, when I first got into the team, I wouldn't say the habits were great with the first team. I think that's been well documented about that era of players. But it wasn't just that era. I think even the great players I'm talking about, there was a big drinking culture, really. But I was always very competitive. And I think when you say good habits means training well. But it wasn't a case of me waking up in the morning and thinking, right, I'm going to train well today or I'm going to give 100%. I just always had something in me where I was very competitive and could get wound up very easily. And if my team was losing in a game or I wasn't playing particularly well, that would rile me. So I never, ever sort of coasted through a training session, because if I performed badly in a training session, it'd annoy me. And I didn't like being annoyed after training, or, you know, when you've had a poor performance in a game, you don't like the feeling. It carries with you. And I was a little bit like that if I had a really poor training session. So that made me have those habits, and I think that's something within, definitely. And I don't think I needed anyone to sort of tell me or push me to do that. I think I was very lucky. That was one of my big strengths. Other players had other strengths, maybe physicality, better technically than me, whatever it may be. But my big strengths a lot was what was going on inside my head, which was very competitive, very focused, and has a really good understanding of the game. And people had other strengths, but that helped me push myself every day.
All right, JC, talking about like the Liverpool team in the 90s, of course, the big rivals was Liverpool, Arsenal for me, being a London man. So what was it in the 90s that you feel that Liverpool team didn't go on and achieve? And in what to you is the biggest culture difference from that Liverpool team and the kind of Liverpool team of now? What was it? What was missing?
Well, I think that team actually, I mean, it possibly lacked mental strength, but it did. It lacked mental strength, but it had great technical quality, that team. And I think of the team that I played in under Julian and Benitez, we were almost the opposite, and we had great physical strength, great mental strength in big games. We weren't as easy on the eye as maybe the Roy Evans team that I came into, played some unbelievable football. And you mentioned Arsenal, and it's probably similar, that team, to an Arsene Wenger's Arsenal in the last sort of 5 or 6 years, where we all said we played the best football, but we never felt they'd win a big game or they'd win a big trophy. And that, to be fair to Arsene Wenger and Arsenal, he did win some FA Cups. But that Liverpool team really, from 96 or 95, I think they won the Carling Cup. For the next 2 or 3 years, it should have won something big, really. And every time it got close, it just lost the big game. And that was the difference with the teams I played in. We weren't necessarily closer to the league title than them, but we were a different type of team. And when we had big games in cups or big semi-finals or finals, whenever we were in a moment of difficulty, we'd be able to navigate our way through it, whereas that team would fall apart.
This Liverpool team now, Jamie, obviously had an incredible couple of years, Champions League final, winning the Champions League, 2 amazing seasons in the Premier League, finally winning the Premier League title. Are we seeing that the sort of the small margins, it's only a small margin that they seem to have dropped off, and then there's been this big drop in points? And how much is it going to take to get Liverpool back at the summit, do you think? Is it going to take a major surgery or just a little bit of tweaking here and there?
I think just a little bit of tweaking, Dave. I think Liverpool are still one of the top teams out there. I really do. I think when Virgil van Dijk comes in there and you get your centre-backs back, I think that puts Liverpool and Man City again as the 2 best teams in the country. And I think maybe when you talk about tweaking in the summer, maybe bringing 1 or 2 players in. So they need to bring a centre-back in, whether that's Kabak, who's already there now, who's on loan. But they definitely need to bring a goal scorer in. And I don't know exactly what position for. And what I mean by that is I'm not sure if I mean a centre-forward or a midfield player, because Liverpool don't score any goals from midfield. And at the moment, they're massively relying on Salah and Mane, and no one else looks like they're going to score. So Jota's been a miss. But whether Jota would ever be first choice in a Liverpool team, I'm not sure yet. He made a great start when he came in. But I think you need to add goals to the team. And whether that's, as I said, a midfield player who scored goals, because it looks like Wijnaldum's going to move on, or it's a case of actually doing something different through the middle in terms of Bobby Firmino. Because we actually look at Liverpool's attacking players, they don't actually have a striker. Jota's not a striker. He's a wide player. Same with Mane, same with Salah. They've got Divock Origi, but he's nowhere near good enough. And he, a lot of the time, plays out wide because he can't play as a centre-forward. So Bobby Firmino plays that role, but we always talk about him being a false nine. So he's not an actual out-and-out striker, really. So I think Liverpool could do with bringing a striker in just to shake things up, and primarily someone who gets goals, because I think there's too much pressure on those two players at the top end of the pitch to score goals. And if they don't score, Liverpool don't look like scoring. And what was interesting from last night in the Champions League game was, yes, Liverpool won 2-0 and it looks a lot rosier, but Liverpool capitalised on two big mistakes from the opposition. They didn't actually create that much themselves. And that is a big problem for Liverpool at the moment, scoring goals and creating sort of big chances. Yes, they were very clinical on the back of the opposition making mistakes, but they didn't really open the opposition up. So that could have easily been a 0-0 game, or it could have been a game you lose 1-0, as what happened at Leicester. Liverpool played really well, no different to last night, 70 minutes in, not creating too much, but dominating the game, and then you make a mistake and you lose the game. Last night, the opposition made this mistake. So I think there's definitely room for a goal scorer in the team.
All right, before we go back...
Bayo, this could be your moment.
Yeah, oh please, man! My body doesn't want the smoke. My body don't want the smoke. But listen, before we go back and touch on your earlier career, so just as being an avid Liverpool supporter, do you think bringing in a goal scorer will take away from Liverpool's style in the sense where you know that Firmino does enhance, and he's selfless, allows I'm gonna say that Salah's selfish or Mane's selfish, but it allows them to take more of the limelight? Would a goal scorer come in and kind of upset that apple cart? Or are you still just thinking that a goal scorer is a goal scorer and Liverpool need that?
Yeah, listen, I'm not daft. I understand what you're saying. And it's not necessarily I'm saying just bring a centre-forward in who's just thinking about goals. Liverpool's goal scorer is Salah.
Yeah.
So, two teams, you very rarely get two teams who have two top goal scorers who score all the goals. There's normally one. If you were picking a perfect team, you'd have your main goal scorer gets 25, 30 goals a season. Salah's now on 24. Your next guy who get goals, maybe between 15 and 20. Then your next guy's getting between 10 and 15. And then you get players who chip him at 3 or 4 goals. But as I said, Firmino doesn't score enough for me. And I know exactly what he does for the team, but I do actually think those numbers have dropped off in terms of winning the ball back. And I just think if you're playing centre-forward for one of the best teams in Europe, you've got to bring a bit more than Firmino is right now. I love him. He's been amazing for Liverpool, but we analysed this on Monday Night Football, and he is the one player out the front three who I worry about in terms of keeping this front three together. And very rarely do front threes, the same players, play week in, week out for this length of time. This front three for Liverpool have played longer than any front three that we really analysed in the Premier League era. It's normally 2 or 3 years, then something changes. So I think Liverpool need a change in the front three, whether that's Jota, or whether they buy someone in the summer. I do think that front three needs shaking up. And unfortunately, that would be Bobby Firmino coming out the team and someone going in. Whether it's a similar type to him, or it's an out-and-out striker, and you maybe do something slightly different. Or, as they did when Jota came in, they play a front four and Firmino almost becomes a number 10. Then it's not so much a problem because you are getting an extra goal scorer on the pitch. You've got 3 players then who you think can score a goal. When I'm watching Liverpool now, I only see 2 players who can score.
I hear you. All right, cool.
Bayo, why don't we get Jamie on what I think was probably the greatest night of his life in 2005? You must have some questions for him on that.
Massive. I was going to go back to that. All right, so the Champions League, I can remember it. So you just must close your eyes and always see it. So first question I want to ask. So you had some real ballers coming at you. So talk to me. Was you... And listen, I don't know you because you go like you're a bit tough and that. But, having the players like Kaka, Seedorf, Crespo, Shevchenko, Pirlo, like coming at you, was you like, bring it on? Or was you just like, rah, like we're in for a long night?
Well, I thought that after at half time, certainly that was going to be a long night, no doubt. But no, I mean, I'm not someone who ever worried too much about who I was up against. And that's not being arrogant, to be honest. It was more a case of, I always felt if I would play well because of me. And if I didn't play well, it was down to me. It wasn't a case, I'm playing against this player or whatever. I always felt my performance was down to me, not really who I was up against. So if I was in the right position, if my positional play was good, if they did something amazing, there's nothing I can do. If they do a great goal or a great skill or something like that, I never sort of blame myself for that. I just say it's great play. So, you know, if I made a mistake or was out of position, that was down to me. So I never really worried about who I was up against. I had a spell for a couple of years where I used to worry about playing against Henry, really, because he's probably the one player who I would say got into my head before I played him for a couple of years.
Why? Why? Tell me why.
No, because he was that good and he causes that many problems,
Okay.
really. And you got to the stage where you weren't quite sure how to handle him, really, because he had everything: great strength, ability on the ball, pace. He was sort of better than you at everything. As a defender, there's always one area you feel you can get the better of an attacker in a situation, but him, for a stage, it didn't feel like that, really. And then you get to grips with it. You know, you come up, you get confidence, you win the odd game against Arsenal. And then we went on a really good run, I think, towards the end of his Arsenal time, probably from 2004 or 5 for the next few years. We had a really good record against Arsenal when he was playing. So sometimes it's the team that they're playing in, which was an amazing team, which makes him look even better. Then when the team drops off, he's not as good. We're a better team, you know. So those things play into that, really. So the era I'm talking about was when Arsenal were at their best. I think from 2002 to 2004, I think they won 2 league titles. They should have won 3, really. I think in 2003 they threw the league away, and they should have won a Champions League in that stage as well, really. So no, that was a great team. But no, I wouldn't say I was massively worried about who I was up against in that final. It was more concentrating on us, and we'd actually felt we played teams who were as good as Milan. We played Juventus, and they won Serie A that season, so we'd knocked Juventus out. And that had Del Piero, Ibrahimovic, Nedved, Buffon, Thuram, Cannavaro. So, you know, that was a great team also. So that gave us confidence.
All right, so what was... Being 3-0 down, been there plenty of times. So what was the team talk? What was the team talk at half time?
Well, I mean, Rafa Benitez is not a manager to give a big sort of rousing speech. He's not that. He's analytical. And what he did, he changed things around. So he made a substitution at half time. He changed the system of the team. He brought Didier Man on to stop Kaka, who was running riot in that first half. So I think Rafa looks back at that, and I think Liverpool supporters do as his greatest moment as a manager, really changing things. You can say he maybe made a mistake with the team. I think even Rafa was holding his hands up to that, because we made a big mistake by playing Didier Man. We played a different team in the final, and we played right throughout the competition. So Rafa always liked to try and keep the opposition guessing. The only problem was he kept us guessing with that team when he put that one out. And we changed it round at half-time, and that had a major impact. Yeah, you can talk about performances and heart and commitment and fighting and getting goals, but a big part of that game was the tactical setup and the changes that we made at half-time.
What about the party?
Oh, that was an heavy one. That was a 5-day bender.
Jeez.
So that was when the Champions League final used to be a Wednesday. So it wasn't like a Saturday night now. So it was Wednesday night, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And I finished Sunday. So, yeah. Is that a 5-day? Yeah. So I celebrated in the hotel up till sort of 4 or 5 in the morning. Thursday was the homecoming. So we were out again after that, after we got off the bus. And the homecoming, there must have been 1 million people on the streets of Liverpool. It was amazing.
That must be, you know, Bayo talks about the actual game, Cara, but that must have been, when you come out and you see that many people on the streets, and you know they're all there to celebrate you and your performance. That must have been right up there for you.
Yeah, it was special. It was almost as good as the game, that, and realising what the effect that, the game has had on people. And listen, it's nothing to do with me. It's just sometimes you're involved in a game that's mad famous. People remember it. And I think it was more than winning the Champions League. I think when we saw the people on the streets, it was like, it's one of those moments where I think everyone can remember where they were when they watched it and the emotions they had watching it, whether you were a fan of Liverpool or another team. I know of Everton fans who basically would not go out the house because Liverpool were in a European Cup final. As soon as it was 3-0 at half-time, they left the house, straight to the pub. They got the pub. By the time they got there, it was 3-3. So the emotions of every supporter watching that game. You can imagine in Italy, can't you? The Milan fans, the emotions for them, the emotions of the Inter Milan fans, watching that game. Because, football is so tribal and the rivalries are so big. And I just think it's a game that will never be forgotten because it was so up and down in the game. And the emotions, just went from 0 to 100 very quickly.
I ain't gonna lie, I love that. All right, let's. So
that's a great shame of the Wickham celebrations, Bayo.
Yeah, but we had to try and do it in COVID.
You get to the championship for the first time ever, and you're not allowed on the streets to celebrate it.
Let me tell you something. Like, it's funny because don't get it twisted. Everybody's cup final is their own. You know what I'm saying? So even though I'm not talking about Champions League, but the championship was my Champions League, if you know what I mean, in that period. So you're right. Not being able to celebrate with the fans, it kind of took that life which you're taking. So you got to do both. You got to play the game, win, and then celebrate with your fans. So we played the game, we won, and celebrated it with ourselves and the family. So we missed out on that side of it. But listen, nobody can take away what we achieved. So I totally get what you're saying. But what can you do, man? Life is life.
Life is life. And you know, it's all about sliding doors, isn't it? And there's Jamie Carragher, one of the best young defenders in English football, one of the best centre-backs in English football. But he comes along at a time when Rio Ferdinand is there, John Terry is there. How many caps do you think you should have got, Jamie?
No, I wouldn't complain about the caps I got, really, and the number. What I would say is I was lucky in that it was an era when Sven used to make lots of changes at half-time. So there's lots of players that you look back, if you go to maybe the 80s, early 90s, the 70s, great centre-backs who've come out with like 7 or 8 caps, because it almost felt like a bigger thing then to actually represent your country. And, you know, there's probably no pull-outs. There was no, you know, mass changes of substitution. So I think I played, was it 39, Dave? Was it 39? I think, 38.
So, yeah.
38 caps I played. And I mean, I'd have possibly got 50 if I hadn't stopped playing for a couple of years, because Capello at that time was desperate to get me back involved, kept speaking to Stevie Gerrard. And I think he saw me then as almost, you know, the next one behind Rio and John Terry, whereas I think all the previous managers had taken me for granted a little bit. And that used to frustrate me. Really, I was always seen as just a squad player with England. Carragher can play a few positions. And in the end, that got to me a bit, and that's why I stopped going and didn't want to play or be involved anymore, because I wasn't playing. I was playing in Champions League finals for Liverpool. I was playing as well as anyone in the position at that time in the Champions League, really, or thereabouts. And I think I was just seen as a squad player. And I think I give Steve McLaren a big fright when I said I wasn't involved no more. He almost panicked and wanted to... he said he'd play me in the next game and he'd give me more games. And then I felt like, well, I don't want to play. I feel like I've bullied you now into picking me. You know, I think I think he just took me for granted a little bit at England. As like, you know, we've all got players at your own club where, you know, they're just there and they'll always do a job for you and they never miss training and they're a good lad and you can play a few positions. And I'm actually playing in Champions League finals for Liverpool. I just I pulled out of it, really. And I only went back, to be honest, because Capello was the manager. It was nothing to do with my country, if I'm being totally honest. It was more to do with I wanted to work with Capello and see what he was like, because he was obviously a legendary manager. He asked me back. He'd been after me for a couple of years. And there was a few injuries, to be fair, when he asked me. I wouldn't have just gone back and took someone's place. But there was a few injuries before the World Cup, and it was the draw of Capello was the reason I went back.
So was it worth it, that experience with Capello?
As well.
I mean, I played in another World Cup. I got a couple of appearances. I was expecting a little bit more. I don't think the language barrier helped. I had visions of Capello drilling the back four and giving me information that I hadn't heard before. This is a manager who'd had Maldini and Baresi. So I was expecting that. I didn't get as much as that as I would have wanted. But that is not a criticism of Capello. And Capello got a lot of criticism from players on the back of that tournament. And I just think, how can you criticise Capello? He's won leagues, and, you know, the best probably team, along with Barcelona and Guardiola, that I've seen in those early 90s. AC Milan won the European Cup, went to Madrid, won 2 leagues, went to Rome, won the league. So his way of managing works. So, you know, I wouldn't point the finger at Capello. He'd probably point the finger at us players and say we're not good enough, and rightly so. So he was basically Mourinho before Mourinho come on the scene, the serial winner who went everywhere and just won. So I was just delighted to be around and listening to him. And I loved him. But I think the language was obviously a little bit of a problem in terms of being on the training pitch and giving information out.
All right, JC, so I'm hearing you talk, right, about, you know, the perception, especially with England. Do you feel that your ability was overlooked and they only concentrate on your heart? So, you know, they talk about, you know what, Jamie Carragher, you know, pure heart, loves a tackle, but your ability the way you spray balls, playing right back, playing centre back, starting attacks. Do you think your ability was overlooked because of your mannerisms?
Yeah, I think so, but I don't think that's just me. I think that's footballers in general. I think we pigeonhole footballers. I always say this about Roy Keane. You'd probably say similar things about Roy Keane, but Roy Keane was one of the best passers of a ball in midfield. And he'd get on the ball, but no one ever speaks about Roy Keane's passing. And it's the same with Gary Neville. Gary Neville gets described the same as me. But when I used to watch Gary Neville when I was a player and I'd watch Man United games, Gary Neville's passing into the front players was really good. I think I wouldn't have played for Liverpool if he couldn't pass. That was my biggest strength when I was coming through the ranks. That's why I was at the club. I wasn't a dribbler. As a young player, you don't really get picked on having heart or being good defensively or tackling. When you're in an academy and you're coming through the ranks, it's all about technical qualities and the attack and play. And then when you get older, formations come into it 11v11. So when you're a younger player, I was a technical player. I was a really good passer of the ball. That was my biggest strength. I couldn't dribble even as a youngster. Even when I was a striker, I wasn't. I scored goals, but I was really good at hold-up play, and that was my big strength at Lillishall. When I was 14 or 15, it was a big thing if you could, play the ball into me, I'd hold it up, bring people into play clever passes, and that was my strength. So, but listen, that's, I'm not comparing myself, because what happens is when you get to a certain level. So, I was a great passer of the ball coming through the ranks, but then you get to Premier League level and top Champions League level. But when you're talking about the top passer, you're talking Xabi Alonso. Now, I'm not Xabi Alonso, so what you've basically got to do is every level you're at, what your strengths are, and that determines what level we go to. So what your strengths are, it's how far you can go with them still being your strengths. And then someone might get to League 2, and then that's it. My strengths are, passing, running, goals, whatever it is. But they will always be my strengths. It's just that they wouldn't be my strength, or they wouldn't be strong enough to play at the next level. So in terms of, if I was playing in the lower leagues, and I'm not taking the piss like I was before, but if I was playing in the lower leagues, I'd probably be seen as a technical centre-back who could pass and come out from the back. But if you're then comparing me to Rio Ferdinand, I'm not as good as him at that. So that's a really high level in the Premier League. So I'm just good at that in the Premier League, even though it was one of my strengths. The standards at every level that you go to, the next level, are obviously a lot higher. And that's where it comes from. So if I had played a lower level, I'd have possibly been seen as a really good passer of the ball. But when you get to the really highest level of what we're talking about now, top Europe and top Premier League, I'm not going to be classed as a really good passer of the ball, even though I think it's one of my strengths.
So when did you develop that mindset? Because, of course, you still was feeling like you was underappreciated. So what age did you stop thinking like, look, it's the perception of how they perceive me, and you just become the way you're comfortable now? Because I agree totally with what you said. You're comfortable with who you are. And when did that kick in? You understand what I'm saying? That mindset of being like, listen, well, I'm comfortable with where I am and I'll concentrate on my strengths and not how you perceive me. What age did that kick in for you?
Well, I would imagine probably in the early years you get frustrated slightly, and that wasn't how was maybe a little bit how you perceived a little bit. But I've said that's the same for every player, so I wouldn't say it bothers me too much. I think with Liverpool was like they were constantly looking to replace me in the early years, and that's understandable. One of the biggest clubs in the world, they're buying players from all over the world, and they want the best. Really, so I would say I never felt fully appreciated or fully content until I was probably in my mid to late 20s, where I knew it'd be very difficult for them to replace me, and I was seen as one of the leaders in the team, the vice captain. But that's normal. That's nothing different for me. If you're playing one of the top clubs in the world, you're going to have competition. And I had to fight tooth and nail to make sure I stayed at the club. And so you should. Everyone should if you're at a club the size of Liverpool. Really. But I think sometimes when you're a local player coming through, maybe you are perceived a little bit differently, good and bad in some ways. And I was not a superstar. So I wasn't Robbie Fowler. I wasn't Michael Owen. I wasn't Steven Gerrard. So it was different for them. They were, like, as I said, superstars. But they were the best players in the country in their position when they came through. I mean, they were out of this world, whereas I was just, obviously a good player to play for Liverpool at 18, but obviously had to do it a different way.
Sounds a bit like me, Bayo. I'm not the superstar at Sky, but they keep trying to replace me. These are the superstars. I still hang on in there.
DJ, you hold them together. Don't let. I know what you do. You hold them together. You the glue, my brother. You the glue.
Well, I just want to. It just made me think, Jamie, when you were saying there about, if you'd play at a lower level, you might have been thought of as being, silky centre back. Was there not a thought in your mind? I don't think I've really asked you this before about when you stopped at Liverpool and then you retired straight away and you came to work for Sky. Was there not a point where you thought I could fancy playing a season or two down at a lower level and show off my skills a little bit?
No, that never entered my mind. I was always determined to be a one-club man. That was a big passion of mine. I think it's something special, not because of me, but I used to look at other players, and I've mentioned Maldini and Baresi. I love those figures who you associate them in one kit, and it's just like Milan. And I always thought of those players, and it actually saddens me when I see someone who's been at a club a long time and they leave for somewhere for a year, and I just think I'd rather be a one-club man and have 1 year less playing somewhere and go somewhere else. But no, I think it's difficult as a defender, really, because and I look at Rio for this, and I think Rio made a big mistake going to QPR, because when you're a top defender and you're getting towards the end of your career, you need protection. I don't care how good you are, and you'll get that more protection at a top team because you'll have more of the ball. You'll win most of your games. When you're playing for a team who are going to be under the cosh more, defending, the players around you aren't as good, you're going to get exposed more. And I think that was certainly a problem for, I'm using Rio as an example because he went to QPR, I think, for a few months, and they struggled, so it wasn't easy for him, and he's one of the best. So it shows what it is. So I always think as a defender, I think as a midfield player or an attacker, you can still just, if you're a midfield player, you're just getting on the ball and you want to play, and, if you win, you lose, it's not down to you. I think when you're a defender, you can cost your team the game. And I certainly, at my age, wouldn't want to go somewhere and cost me, not getting clean sheets, not winning games, making mistakes, and actually not enjoying it. I think it's difficult for a defender to enjoy football unless the results are going well. Really, I think for a midfield player, it's different. You can come on sub, you can come off, you can have a good game, your team get beat. If you're a defender and your team get beat, you've normally maybe had a role in them getting beat, and that's it's not a good place for you mentally. And I also, as I said, just wanted to play for Liverpool, and I thought that was a special thing to do.
Me, I would have loved you to come down to League One for a season, JC. I would have loved you. I would have loved to go toe to toe with you. What?
You met me.
You would have showed your silky, and I would have just tried to pin. I would have loved it. I would have loved it. But listen, though, look, by the way you talk, listen, you're knowledgeable, and I think that people in the change room with you would have said, you know what, JC's going to be a coach. What made you then go into punditry instead of coaching? Like, did you not ever want to be a coach? Pass on the knowledge that you've gained throughout your career?
Yeah, I did want to be a coach and a manager. I was always going to be one, really. And that is the one thing I think about now. It would be nice to almost pass on things to people and help people. I do think about that. I do it with my son. My son's a young player, and I feel like I'm his coach, if you like. So he's me one protege at the moment. But I never got a real buzz for being on a training ground. When you hear coaches speak now and they talk about, I love the grass, I love being on the training ground, I love getting a session going. That would not get my juices flowing at all, really. Trying to organise and set something up and things like that. I love giving them information on Monday Night Football about, positions and game management and situations. I think that's where I would be good.
I think what you're talking about is a coaching role, though, Jamie, because, it's not just, if you think about the elite clubs now, it's not just one coach. They're a team of people that the best managers will bring together for their different skills. And I'm sure that somebody would want someone who, sees the game in the way that you see it. So if in a couple of years' time, Stevie goes back to Liverpool and he gives you a phone call, Cara, I need you on my management team, what would you say?
I'm not quite sure if Dave's asking this for the podcast or he's trying to get Monday Night Football all to himself.
I actually want to know. I was going to ask this anyway. I actually want to know because I'm going to lead on this question, but answer it. Don't try and get out of it.
No, I don't think I would, Dave, to be honest. I mean, Liverpool would be the only club I think I would leave Sky for. But I love my job that much, and I think I'm very lucky in that I'm involved in the best football show anywhere. And when I say anywhere, I don't mean this country. I'm not sure if in Italy or Spain they have a tactics show like we do, or anywhere else in the world. I don't know. I might be wrong. But I think without Monday Night Football and that focus it gives me to really, dig deep into football, I think I'd find punditry almost like a part-time job, really. I think Monday Night Football almost just brings it to another level where it feels like you feel like a coach, you feel like a manager, you feel like you're looking at detail. And that's what really gets my juices flowing about the game, not, punditry and making big statements and, giving a big opinion. I really enjoy that as well. But I think really, diving deep into what's really happening and the solutions and the problems of teams. And I think it'd be very difficult for me to be involved at a football club now.
So if Stevie G hollered at you, you're saying you would say, no, I'm just, because I didn't really get at the end. So Stevie G hollers and says, JC, let's go to Liverpool, come on my coaching. Are you saying you'll say no? Because I just didn't catch all that after all of that.
I mean, it depends if he asks me or he hollers. I think if he hollers, he'll be in.
And I think, Bayo, that the reason that Jamie would be reluctant to leave because he would miss that relationship, not just with me, obviously, but with Gary Neville as well, who's become his, they're like long lost brothers when they get together, Bayo, honestly.
It looks like, all right, so I want to ask because you work with them. So on the screen when we watch, so one, do you like him or did you hate him before you started working with him? And was there any reservations? Was it proper hate? Like,
Yeah, I hated them a little bit. Can you hate someone a little bit? You just hate them, don't you, I suppose?
You can hate him a little bit. I'm with you. I hate people a little bit.
No, I mean, there's a big rivalry between the clubs, but he used to stoke her up. He's kissed his badge. He said things about people from Liverpool. And he was just basically playing up to the fanzines in Manchester, trying to get in with the Man United fans. Because basically, who cares about Gary Neville? Even if you're a Man U fan, he's a right back. No one's really interested in right back. So that was a way of trying to be popular with the Man U fans and getting a song. And then he went on Sky TV and it all come back to haunt him. And then he had to play, Mr. Liverpool and support Liverpool and different things to go and get them on side. And you know what? He did get them on side because the amount of times I'm stopped in the street now and saying, oh, Gary Neville's, he's sound, isn't he? He's a great pundit and all that. And I just fingers crossed they're saying the same about me in Manchester. I'm not so sure.
No.
All right, listen, for me, this has been amazing. I'm not going to lie. Listen, you've always been a legend and you're even a bigger legend to me. So I'm just going to finish off real quick. So, JC, with all the players you've played with and all the players you've played against, I want to know who's the best player you've played with and who's the best player you've played against?
Well, the best player I played against, I would say Thierry Henry. I think he was the best player in the Premier League, or he has been the best player in the Premier League. We've had nothing better since. I think he was the best player in the world for a couple of years around that time, him and Ronaldinho, around 2002 to 2004. So he's a Premier League great. I'd put him at the top of that list. I mean, played with is the obvious one, Steven Gerrard, but I think interesting is when people ask me who's the next best, and that makes it a little bit more difficult, and you think of Fernando Torres, you think of Xabi Alonso, World Cup winner, you got Luis Suarez in there, Robbie Fowler, Michael Owen, there's so many to choose from them, but I would go with Luis Suarez as the next best. Yes, I think he took an average Liverpool team to almost the title, really, but for one game. I think what he's done with Uruguay, taking them to a semi-final of a World Cup, winning a Copa America, what he's done with Barcelona when we felt Barcelona were just almost falling away, and then they won the treble in his first season. And now, Atletico Madrid are top of the league and top scorer in La Liga with 16 goals is Luis Suarez. So this guy is not just a great player, he has a great effect on the teams he plays in, and that is always the sign of a great player. Football is a team game. It's not an individual game. It's what you do for your team and where you take them. And I don't think there's been many better in this generation than Luis Suarez.
Aye, bad boy answer. I like the way you finished that, man. Yeah, punditry was made for you, JC. Punditry was made for you.
You know the score, Bayo.
All right, listen.
This is what you don't know, Bayo. This has been your audition for Monday Night Football.
Aye, you reckon I can roll it? Yeah? Now, don't say that, because Gary Neville will be switching on me, and he doesn't hold his tongue.
I didn't say that. I said it's your audition.
Bear hug him. Aye, not about a pleasure.
I think what would be interesting is a little bench press competition between you two.
What? No, it wouldn't. Don't. Why are you gassing him up? No, it wouldn't. Oh, come on now.
Have you seen his muscles, Bayo? He's got some proper muscles.
Yeah. Listen.
You don't get them peeling spuds.
But JC already said it. His strength can only take him to so far. And then there's another level. I know, bless it.
Thank you.
Yo, another epic interview. Jeez, they say don't meet your legends, but I'm so glad I met mine. DJ, thank you for bringing JC. He's good people, isn't it?
That's my pleasure, Bayo. You know, he's salt to the earth, and you ask him a question, and as you say, he gives you a straight answer. That's all you can ask for, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Yeah. So would you say that you kind of felt a different vibe to JC, like on the podcast than the Monday night, or was just that's always JC?
There was a bit of a different vibe because he comes in on a Monday Night Football and he's got his waistcoat on and he's got his tie up to his neck and he's got his jacket on and he's got his hair pressed perfectly and you know, he's a bit more laid back today. I think he brought a different vibe out of him, Bayo.
Ah, thank you. All right, people, it's time to look at the Super 6 fixtures for round 36. It was a midweek set of matches that took place on Tuesday night with a mixture of Championship and Champions League games. Don't forget, you can download the Super 6 app, create an account and play for free by predicting the scores of 6 chosen matches to be in with a chance to win £250,000 this week. Another reminder that you can invite your friends to join Super 6, and if any of them that you invited go on to win the jackpot, they will win £25,000. It's prediction time. DJ, talk to me.
All right. Well, I've got one from the Premier League for you, Bayo. Burnley, West Brom. What do you think?
Burnley had a good win the other day. I'm going to say 2-1 Burnley.
That looks a pretty safe prediction, doesn't it, right now? I think West Brom are just getting a bit better. We saw them against Manchester United. Looked like the new signings were starting to make an impact, maybe. So that's the only thing you would say on that. So 2-1, I suppose, feels like you're hedging your bets a little bit.
Yeah.
What about QPR Bournemouth?
Bournemouth are struggling now. And we had Charlie Austin on last week, and it would be to go against him. But I'm going to say 1-0 Bournemouth. Sorry, Charlie.
All right, you're going for Bournemouth 1, QPR 0.
Yeah.
Norwich Rotherham is top of the table, bottom of the table scenario.
Yeah, but Rotherham have picked up some results recently and they're starting to play. But I will say 1-0 Norwich. 1-0
Norwich. These are all tough to call, I have to say. Nottingham Forest, Blackburn, again in the Championship.
I don't think there's going to be many goals, but I'm going to go 2-0 Blackburn.
Away win for Blackburn at Forest. That would be welcome news for Tony Mowbray. Reading still going well up against Middlesbrough.
I'm going to say tight game. I'm going to say 2-1 Reading, home win.
Home win. I wonder if you go home win on this last one. Huddersfield, Swansea.
Nah, I'm going away win. I'm going to go 3-1 Swansea.
3-1 to Swansea. I'm glad I don't have to make these predictions as well, Bayo. Good calls and all that. Well, that's it then. Big thank you to Jamie Carragher for joining us. Big thank you to you, Bayo, for having me.
Listen, it's a massive thank you for coming on. Like LW trying to leave me in the lurch and DJ came in, the upper echelon, you know what I'm saying? And came in and just brought some nice vibes. All right, listen, real talk, DJ. Thank you for coming. Thank you for giving me your time. And I've learned from you. You know what I mean?
I look forward to working you again. And I mean that genuinely, Bayo. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you, broski. All right, listen, people, remember to get involved on Twitter. Follow us at Super6 or use hashtag Super6Podcast. Make sure you like and subscribe so the podcast can download automatically each week. DJ, thank you. Everybody else, I'll see you next week. Peace.